Guys, there are new massive updates for Travis Scott's new album, Utopia. This week, there have been a bunch of different updates that have come out, and the fans are absolutely hyped. So, guys, if you're new to NFR Podcast and you want to follow along with this Utopia rollout, smash the subscribe button. Lou, how are you feeling after these updates,
We're finally at the fucking finish line, bro. After years of covering
don't say
this
that
rollout.
Too soon. Don't start jinxing
no, we're
this.
There,
Don't
bro.
start
I can
jinxing
finally be excited as a fan because after years of us covering this rollout, we've been getting teases and hints and different pieces of information, and it felt like it all added up to nothing because there were so many different time spans that were passing where it just didn't actually materialize into something big. But finally, we have major updates. And of course, this really started a couple of months back when the CEO of Epic Records ended up confirming that Utopia is expected to come out in June of 2023. So that was big news, but we still were unsure just because Travis had a performance where he was saying that Sofago, Sheck West, and a couple of other Cactus Jack artists might drop before him, and not many of those artists have dropped yet. But now we have enough to kind of sideline all the other bullshit and go with what matters, and that starts off with what he was saying at the Houston Astros game on May 17th. So how did you feel about him kind of, telling the cameraman that this is now going to be an album that's on the way, that it's going into the mixing and mastering process, that he actually played it for the team, meaning that it's probably done?
Well, I mean, listen, if you're coming out on public television and saying that sort of stuff, something has to be on the way. Not only that, but Travis is usually the type of artist to take his rollouts and center them around his hometown of Houston. And I really like that. I think that it was a nice indication because it was tasteful and it was more like, okay, we're there, but I'm still mixing and mastering. And then the follow-up to that was even bigger because then on May 18th, you get these IG posts from Mike Dean, and he posts these sort of screenshots of him mixing and mastering Travis's vocals. And then on that IG post, you see that the location says Houston,
Absolutely.
and then you see that the caption reads Topia, and it's kind of getting me wondering. It's like, okay, he didn't say Utopia, so is there something else in the mix?
I think that there might be something else in the mix, and if you go back to the post right before the one of him mixing and mastering the vocals, which by the way, on that post, The Weeknd himself commented lollipop emoji, so we need that collaboration after the classics that we got from them, like Wonderful and Pray for Love and all the other ones off of all of Travis's albums. And I think it's a lock because he's been on every Travis album. But going back to what I was saying, the post right before that one, you had Mike Dean again posting a screenshot of this audio software where he's mixing and mastering vocals. And the caption actually read out, all the best albums in history are on 24 tracks. So, listen. We just waited 5 years for Kendrick, and he ended up giving us a double album. Mm-hmm. Now we're waiting 5 years for Utopia, and this might also be a double album. And I think that it's likely that it will be. So how do you feel about that, bro? Because I don't know if he can really, have hits from start to finish over the course of 24 tracks.
It just depends, because when you go into a Travis experience, it's not only hits. He ends up having those songs like a Nashville Thunder or like a Houston Fornication.
I don't mean hits in terms of commercial success. I mean more in the sense of every song bangs. You know what I mean?
I understand where you're coming from, but even at that, it's just that his track record has been flawless to this date. And I mean, yes, there are some singles that could concern you. As of recently, example, something like Franchise kind of fell out of my rotation. I like the Escape Plan, but I mean, Mafia is automatically 10 times better. But I mean, I understand where you're coming from. But it is a bit
you
concerning.
Think it would be good? You would prefer a double album versus, let's say, a 14, 15 track album? Because if you look over time, bro, I mean, the best double albums in hip hop, I feel came from the 90s. You had All Eyes on Me. You had Biggie that pulled it off over 24 songs. But can Travis really make a skipless album if it's 24 tracks?
But I mean, just imagine he comes through after 5 years and develops that.
Kendrick
24
couldn't do it. You know what I mean?
No, but listen, Kendrick developed an incredible experience with that double album. So
that
I mean, yes, okay, obviously there's not going to be songs that you're going to go back to on a double album, but overall, I think it is a good move. Okay. And I think that for the fans, they want to be fed. I think that if you give people 13 songs after 5 years of waiting, people would be mad at that. And 24 songs is not that bad for someone like Travis Scott, especially if you have a stacked feature list. Think about the amount of people you could have on here. Think about all the types of different producers that could come through. He's even expected to produce for this album, so I think it's going to go well.
Yeah, and speaking of the whole Topia branding, this is not something that is brand new, just because if you look back to 2021 when Travis Scott put out Escape Plan and Mafia, on the cover art of that, it actually read out, the true dystopia is here. So now people think that it's going to be a double-sided album where you have dystopia and utopia on the same track list, two halves to make up one whole. And the thing is that the Topia branding doesn't even end there. So take us through what the security guards were doing with Travis.
Okay, so listen to this, guys. So there was pictures that surfaced where Travis Scott was obviously walking with his security guards. And if you pay attention to the wrists of the security guards in the picture, you could see that there's a briefcase that's chained to their wrists. And on there, you see the logo for Utopia. And then it gets you wondering, it's like, okay, why is this happening all of a sudden right now? Why are they popping their heads out when all of this new information's coming through? Like, it's almost symbolic.
Seems planted, right?
Absolutely. It's symbolic for the fact that, like, this is coming, this is en route, and people should be excited about it.
Yeah, that's what you were saying in the short form piece that we did, that you're like, he's telling us that the album's in transport, that it's literally on the way. And I think there's no better way to sort of demonstrate that. And I love the fact that it's chained to the wrist. It's such a cool marketing strategy because it's showing you how valuable the hard drive to Utopia truly is. Like, it seems like they have the Krabby Patty formula in there. You know what I mean?
Fire. I like
it's
that
something
analogy.
that's very valuable. So I think this is a genius way to market the album. It gets people talking, gets people excited, and it's also like a more low-key and subliminal way to tell people this album is really coming imminently. So that was super dope. But that wasn't it, because a day later, after the first security guard had a chain to his wrist, another security guard, a totally different dude, was spotted with Travis Scott, and he also had the Utopia briefcase chained to his wrist. But going back to the first guy that was with Travis, if you looked at Travis's shoes in that photo, also said Utopia. If you look at the license plate on the car they were about to get into, it said Topia. So once again, the Topia branding is present, alluding to the double album. So it's looking very possible. I would prefer to just get Utopia, if you ask me, unless Dystopia is a mixtape.
Yeah,
that comes
I know,
before.
but like, you're a bit of a hard ass with that type of stuff. I know you like the short albums, but listen, I'm super down for this Travis Scott album. Not only that, but the logo that's been surfacing is actually fucking hard.
Which is not official.
It's not official, but listen, if it ends up happening, I think it's really hard though. I think that's
it's cool. Like,
branding.
the fact that, like, if you read it upside down, it also reads out Utopia with the orange text. It's fucking colorful. I love it. But the last thing I want to talk about is the actual release date for this thing, because there were rumors of June 23rd with the old Dystopia cover, where before he changed the cover, it said June 23rd, 1992 for the Escape Plan cover, yada, yada, yada. But more than that, of course, there's the Epic Records CEO that came out and said something. We also know that Rolling Loud, Travis Scott is performing at Rolling Loud Miami in July, and they've actually been teasing the fact that Utopia will be out in time for his performance, because if you look at their Twitter, they're putting out posts of Mike Dean's picks and other posts related to the rollout, and the captions are Miami this summer.
That's incredible.
So, listen, Travis has even performances in Europe in June and July, so it's really looking like everything is finally building up to the release of Utopia, which will no doubt be the biggest album of the fucking year, and especially this year, bro. Think about how needed this is.
Oh, absolutely.
For how much of a drought it's
been. But I
been.
think that's the case every single year until someone steps up to the plate. Like, even looking back at 2021, J. Cole started us off with the offseason, and then you got Tyler, you got the whole Don the CLB era, you got Baby Keem after. Let's say looking back at 2022, it was, I mean, you could say it was Pusha T with It's Almost Dry, but the first major release came from Kendrick in May of 2022, and then you ended up getting a full fleet of albums after that. I think that this is going to set the year off, and it's going to set the tone below. Just for, like, the fanboy's sake, bro, let's decide a weekend. What do you got, bro?
A weekend? I'm going to stick with that old theory of June 23rd, bro. I think it's going to happen around that time.
You know what? I think it's going to happen June 23rd, or I think it's going to do June 30th. I think they're going to take the month for the rollout. I think it might be towards the end. But imagine this comes, like, in the next couple of weeks, bro. What are you doing?
Oh, I can't fucking wait, bro. It's really going to be the album of the summer, and I'm excited for the rollout almost more than I am for the album, because he always has the craziest fucking rollouts.
Like, he knows how to build anticipation within a fan
base. He builds worlds before the album
Absolutely.
is even out. Before you're pressing play on the album, you already get a feeling of what this sonic environment's gonna be like.
And
it's
I think that's
cool.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a genius marketing tactic, because then you're not leaving people wondering what's coming for the album, and like that could create false expectations. And like, I just think they're taking good care of this rollout, and it's fired that it's finally coming this year, guys. So let me know in the comment section, guys, do you think it's actually happening in June? And what surprised you the most out of this rollout? Is it the chains? Is it the license plate? Is it the Astros thing? Let me know in the comments as well, guys. And we are going to be doing a live album reaction on our Patreon plan to Travis Scott's new album, whether it be Topia, Utopia, who knows at this point. So if you guys want to access that, the link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching this, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.